Good evening. For Telesur English, I'm Sarah Begum in Caracas, Venezuela. Our top story tonight comes from Cuba as discussions between United States and Cuban envoys continue. The U.S. Assistant Secretary of State, Roberta Jacobson, believes the policy the United States has pursued over the last 50 years has only isolated the United States and has not created empowerment for the Cuban people.
Well, I want to start out by saying that I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know exactly how this is going to work out in 5 years or 10 years. What I do know, and what the President and the Secretary have stated clearly, is we know what's happened in the last 50. And we know that the policy that we had pursued over the last 50 years had served solely to isolate us and not to create the empowerment of the Cuban people that we were seeking.
The United States and Cuba fell short of setting dates to reopen embassies but agreed to meet again to overcome deep rifts after they wrapped up historic talks aimed at normalizing relations. They sparred over human rights and admitted to profound differences. They also must still discuss a date or location for their next meeting.
Tuvimos un intercambio sobre varios temas.
We had an interchange on various bilateral issues that included an exchange of views on the issue of human rights, in which it was confirmed that we have deep differences.
The U.S. delegation also met with Cuban dissidents. Participants included Berta Soler, leader of the Ladies in White group, and Jose Daniel Ferrer, who heads an opposition group in Western Cuba. The dissident community voiced unease after the announcement of normalization of relations. The U.S. government has been the dissidents' main allies and source of funding over the years. And for the latest on the meetings in Havana, we turn to our correspondent in Washington, Jorge Gestoso.
At the end of her visit to Cuba, the Assistant Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere, Roberta Jacobson, mentioned that she met this morning with some dissidents in Havana. Some of them agree with the new policy of President Obama. Some of them do not. Also, she mentions that she believes in a couple of weeks they are going to start the second round of conversations with the Cuban delegation, that she will be writing a recommendation to President Obama in order to remove from the list of countries that sponsor terrorism Cuba. And also she mentions that she believes that before the end of the year, the new embassies in Havana and here in Washington are going to be already taking place, are going to be already working. And even she mentions that Secretary of State John Kerry could be the one who inaugurates the embassy in Havana.
Bolivia's Evo Morales was sworn in for a third term as president at a ceremony in the country's National Assembly and vowed to sharply reduce poverty. As thousands of supporters cheered outside, the country's first indigenous president took the oath of office with his left fist raised on behalf of the Bolivian people and equality for all human beings. Morales, in office since 2006, was re-elected in October with 61% of the vote and remains a very popular president due to his progressive social changes.
We have supported him unconditionally since he became a member of parliament, and we still do so today. He represents us, all social sectors, small farmers, the working class, and everyone in general.
At the inauguration, Evo Morales denounced the North American attacks on Venezuela.
It is not God that saves. God is not attacking Venezuela. Who is attacking Venezuela is the American empire, politically and economically. God will not save if the empire attacks us economically and politically. It won't be God. It will be the people who save us.
And here in Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro has requested the national parliament launch an investigation into the economic attack by the Venezuelan right.
I have asked the President of the National Assembly, Diosdado Cabello, that next Tuesday the National Assembly open a historic investigation about economic attack currently in process, and will present all proof that the government and justice has against the actors of the economic war.
Maduro has also called for a national debate on gasoline prices, arguing a balanced and fair price is needed. The president assured the nation a rise in gasoline prices will not lead to an increase in public transport costs. Instead, he argued that raising prices will benefit the country by bringing in new public revenue. In Colombia, various social sectors have held a candlelight vigil for peace. Our correspondent Natalia Margarita reports from Bogotá.
Moved by a strong desire for reconciliation, hundreds of people gathered in the country's capital to express their support for the peace process. As a symbol of hope and unity, the participants of all ages, genders, and beliefs lighted up candles while chanting for the end to the more than 50 years conflict.
We believe it is very important to gather with a diverse group of people that have a common collective cause. We sometimes focus on the differences between people rather than on the issues we have in common, which makes us part of the same family. Today we want peace, and this is something that touches us, and that is why we are here today.
Natalia Rivas is an artist and a member of a music band made up of homeless people and drug addicts in rehabilitation. She highlights the importance of bringing together people's differences into a collective project that concerns us all as Colombians.
Until the day when a final agreement is signed in Havana, which we know will be signed, will we turn off these candles as a symbol of the end and the start of a new era in Colombia. Many social sectors are gathered here, including activists from Bogotá's LGBT sector, indigenous people, women and men of all ages, and representatives of our children and youth.
LGBT activist José Miel said that based on his experience as an individual of a historically marginalized social sector, there is much his movement can contribute to the peace process.
Nuestra comunidad somos muchos, entonces si nos unimos.
Our community is large, so if we unite with the rest of the people that exist in the world, we can achieve a very nice peace. A peace with tranquility and honest peace. A peace without war, without violence. So, as artists in one way or another, and also as LGBT activists, we can take peace to many places.
With this symbolic act, different social sectors and organizations mark the beginning of a weekly gathering that they expect to hold every Thursday until a final peace agreement is reached in Havana, Cuba. From Bogotá, Natalia Margarita, Telesur.
Greek leftist leader Alexis Tsipras said an absolute majority for his Syriza party in Sunday's election would free his hands to renegotiate the country's debt. Syriza currently leads in polls by about 5%. An absolute majority will give the necessary strength and free hands to negotiate with Greece's European peers. Tsipras said Syriza want to throw out the unpopular multi-billion euro bailout Greece signed 5 years ago in return for bankruptcy, saving loans.
We need the absolute majority in order to free our hands the following day. We need it because an uphill road awaits us. We made commitments to the Greek people, which we want to implement. Commitments of big collisions inside and outside the country.
Following the death of longtime Saudi King Abdullah and the ascension of Salman, the United States does not expect any change in its relations with Saudi Arabia, noting their long history of cooperation.
We look forward to continuing the close partnership between the United States and Saudi Arabia under the leadership of King Salman. Obviously, they're in a period of mourning right now, but there are a range of issues that we have worked together on, whether it's the Arab Peace Initiative or it's the campaign to degrade and defeat ISIL. We have a long history of cooperation. We don't have any indication that that cooperation will change.
The Ebola situation was still extremely alarming. Despite a significant fall in new cases in West Africa, the World Health Organization warned. The UN agency said the progress made so far could be rapidly undone if a funding gap remained. WHO's Assistant Director General in charge of Ebola, Bruce Aylward, said it's still an incredibly dangerous situation and extremely alarming.
This all started with one case, and there seems to be a increasing as people get familiar with and come to understand Ebola, there tends to be a false sense of security that this is somehow a controllable disease. There's no such thing as Ebola control. It's got to drive to zero. So, Lisa, I'm very concerned about whether or not member states can maintain that incredible generosity that got us this far. Very, very concerned.
Sanctions against Russia create a major risk of instability, French President François Hollande said at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Hollande explained that sanctions generate commercial difficulties and noted that the repercussions are felt even outside of Ukraine.
Mais aussi un risque majeur. Là aussi.
It also presents a major risk of instability. Sanctions are added to embargoes, and these embargoes generate commercial difficulties, even outside Ukraine.
Moving to Palestine, that is where the Rafah crossing between Palestine and Egypt was closed. We go to Noor Harazin for more.
Egyptian authorities late on Thursday closed the Rafah crossing after it had been temporarily opened for 3 days. Palestinian crossing officials said that 830 Palestinians in Gaza used the crossing, which was reopened on Tuesday. However, over 25,000 other humanitarian cases are still stuck and on waiting list to use the crossing for medical treatment and to continue their studies abroad. There was no indication from Egypt when it will reopen it again. On the other hand, Egyptian authorities released 45 Palestinians from the Gaza Strip who had been in custody for several months after they crossed via tunnels into Egypt without documents, hoping to travel by sea to Europe from the Egyptian seaport of Alexandria. Sources in the Interior Ministry of the former Hamas-run government said that the freed detainees were transferred to the Gaza Strip Wednesday after spending several months in Egyptian prisons. Noor Harazin, Telesu TV, Gaza.
Thanks to Noor. The Buenos Aires city government, led by Mauricio Macri, is characterized by its neoliberal policies, culture and the arts are not exempt from these market policies, but they are fighting for the approval of a bill to allow them to practice their arts freely. Here's Telesur correspondent Leo Poblete Caduti with more from the Argentine.
Many artists of the city of Buenos Aires have joined forces, organising themselves to confront the onslaught of the neoliberal policy on the arts and culture of the government of the city of Buenos Aires, which has intensified in recent times.
They began to persecute us. They wanted to confiscate our equipment. There was plenty of arbitrary measures based on a legal vacuum, because there was no law for or against us. So from there on, we began to get organised in the struggle to take the bill to the legislature, a law that would rectify, make us visible and legitimate our work. Well, not legitimate, because our work is already legitimised by the public, but anyway, a law that will legitimise us in institutional terms.
The comradeship of the artists and their high level of organisation, plus the support they have received from the people of Buenos Aires, has stopped the police harassment for the time being.
The persecution has now stopped, and it's thanks to our struggle. But I think it has to do mostly with the fact that we are not commercially viable to anyone. And in accordance with the policy of the city government, we don't fit into what they want for public spaces.
The main objective of the struggle is to ensure the right to express popular culture and preserve public spaces.
These are issues that are hidden away, so it's important that people everywhere know that in the city of Buenos Aires, culture and the arts at different levels are being persecuted, and we want to reach everybody.
The artists also expressed that another of their objectives for 2015 is to network with street performers all across Latin America and deepen ties of integration among them. From Buenos Aires, Leo Poblete Caduti, Telesur.
Thank you, Leo. To the beat of popular music and the sound of drums, carnival groups and bands make their first appearance at the opening of the popular Uruguayan Carnival. The Uruguayan Carnival is the longest in the world and kicked off with a parade of floats, dancers, artists and musicians through downtown Montevideo, with the rejoicing of tens of thousands of people. The colourful show will go on for 8 weeks. More on these and other stories on our website, telesortv.net/English. For Telesort English, I'm Sarah Bagan. Join me Monday night for more. Until then, have a great weekend. Good night.